Hey, everybody. Seems like you have some fans here. Oh, I am a fan of everyone here.
Create a Venn diagram on from where are we seeing the attacks? On voting rights, on people's access and right to reproductive health care, on LGBTQ rights, and then you can put this circle on and those who refuse to propose and fight for reasonable gun safety laws, and you will see an extraordinary intersection. And here's what that also tells you, and this is the beauty of organizing and all movements. Incredible opportunity for coalition building.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Chicago, a place that apparently you're not supposed to talk about if you're not from Chicago, unless you're a Democrat like Kamala Harris, who showed up to Chicago to discuss solutions for so-called gun violence. But she didn't really talk about crime, which, in my opinion, is the root cause of the violence that is happening in Chicago. Is the criminals. The once infamous top cop of California, for whatever reason, again, wants to talk about the issue of violence in Chicago or gun violence, but she won't actually mention anything about crime or stopping crime or locking people up or being tough on crime, anything like that. She just wants to vouch for people voting for Democrats so that Democrats can take law-abiding citizens' guns away and allow the criminals to freely have them.
For the third time in a month, Vice President Kamala Harris visits Chicago. This time, she speaks before two gun violence prevention groups that are growing by the day. Moms Demand Action and Students Demand Action. Moms Demand! It's a group that began 10 years ago. Moms Demand Action has grown to 10 million members nationwide. Chicago's Valerie Burgess is one of its original volunteers after her son Craig was murdered in 2013.
People wouldn't even talk to us as moms volunteers. And now they not only talk to us, they seek us out. They want our support.
Moms in the red shirts have the full support of the Biden administration.
You put the pressure on the system so that the system has to hear the voices and respond in some way.
Vice President Kamala Harris credits their activism in signing historic gun reform legislation. Harris was the keynote speaker of the Everytown for Gun Safety conference at McCormick Place. It also included Students Demand Action.
How do you see my generation playing a role in this movement?
We are counting on you. We need you. You are critical to this issue. You are everything.
17-year-old Erin DeSantis was handpicked to ask Harris a question. She and other students met with the vice president for a private conversation before the event.
She's just very human like the rest of us. I think, there was really no big fanfare around it.
The Biden administration sees the gun violence issue as key to galvanize the youth vote. One, the Biden-Harris ticket knows it needs to win in 2024. And a vote, Harris says, is vital for the passage of common sense gun laws.
When your generation starts to vote in your numbers, I see this changing completely.
We're so up for it. We're so ready. We're so tired of living through all these things every single day. And so, again, once I turn 18, I know I'm already prepped and ready to register to vote.
And while Harris rallied the crowd, she made no mention of today's Illinois Supreme Court ruling upholding the state's assault weapons ban. Harris's visit to Chicago was brief. She spoke for about a half hour before heading back to Washington, D.C. Meantime, the conference continues through Sunday. Governor Pritzker is expected to be here tomorrow, signing some key gun violence prevention legislation.
Now, what I find fascinating about the current state of politics, especially considering how crime is rampant and out of control under the Biden-Harris administration, is that Biden is the architect of the so-called crime bill, right? Which, in my opinion, was a success. Black people begged for it back in the 80s and the 90s because crime was out of control. I know that is very controversial and people like to use it against Biden, but quite honestly, I think it was more of a net positive than a net negative. Kamala Harris used to be the top prosecutor in California, right? The top cop, okay, in California. And these two don't seem to have a damn clue in regards to what to do about the crime crisis in this country, right? Again, I would consider these two to be experts on actually stopping crime, but for whatever reason, they can't do it, right? They don't have anything for it. So the trick from the Democrats is that instead of addressing the soft on crime prosecutors, okay, and the woke mayors and the progressives who have basically pushed defund the police around the country, instead of going after them, right, and trying to right the ship, no. What we're going to do is that we're going to tell you to keep voting Democrat because Democrats are going to ban more guns, right? AKA, they're going to make it harder for law-abiding citizens to protect themselves because Chicago already has pretty substantial gun laws, just like California, just like New York, and the criminals still have the guns, right? They still have the guns. They're still committing crimes. Maybe, just maybe, it's not the gun, right? But again, Kamala Harris shows up to Chicago, doesn't talk about the actual crime problem in Chicago at all. She wants to talk about basically banning more guns while you have mailmen straight up getting robbed in Chicago. Again, you have mailmen who can't even deliver mail without worrying about getting robbed in Chicago.
Into some of the postal workers who are filling in for their colleagues that are believed to be recovering from these robberies that have happened recently. The residents living in these areas call it all unfortunate. They grow a bond with these postal workers and are hoping the city and police can do more to protect them. The Postal Service back on the ground today in North Austin, but this man delivering the mail isn't the carrier these residents are used to seeing. That's because he's filling in for the man who was robbed Thursday afternoon while doing his job here near 1500 North Long. All of that caught on this home surveillance camera as you see two suspects get out of the white vehicle there and rob the mail carrier of his belongings before they drive off. One man who did not want to be identified says he used to be a postal worker himself, and it hurts him to see a familiar face dealing with an incident like this.
Professional. That's what I call a good mailman. They're professional. They take care of their customers and they do their job.
Incidents like that have become a trend for postal workers locally and across the nation. That's why USPS officials just announced a $100,000 reward for anyone that could help identify these people of interest believed to be responsible for the robberies of two other postal workers in Chicago. Both of those incidents happened on August 1st, one of them near North Kildare and Belmont in Irving Park, where a carrier was shot while being robbed. Police say he's okay now, but shortly after that, another carrier was robbed in Logan Square, right near North Sawyer and Cortland. A nationwide effort now underway by lawmakers to replace the master keys that are often targeted in these robberies, as people say these incidents are just out of hand.
Postal inspectors ain't messing around with this here. And you're going to jeopardize your life to get 10 to 20 years in prison for a bundle of mail, ain't nothing in it. You got his wallet, ain't got nothing but a credit card in it, ain't nothing. It's not worth it. Go to school, get your job.
Anyone with information that could help this investigation is asked to call police or the United States Postal Service.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Not something that Kamala Harris seems to be concerned about, okay? Or Brandon Johnson, right? Again, Brandon Johnson would say, don't demonize these young scholars who committed this crime and robbed this postal worker, okay? You can't demonize them, right? They're not young Al Capones or whatever. They don't want to arm postal workers, okay? They want to actually make it more difficult for law-abiding citizens like these postal workers to do their jobs and to protect themselves, okay? It's a damn shame that postal workers, apparently in Chicago, need to run around with bulletproof vests, okay? Because, again, you have criminals that are out here shooting postal workers, not just robbing them, but also shooting them. And that leads me to this story, which is a completely different story, but kind of the same story in the sense that you have postal workers getting shot in Chicago.
Developing tonight, a Chicago mail carrier is just out of surgery after he was shot during an attempted robbery this afternoon. It happened in broad daylight on a residential street in Kilbourne Park. CBS 2's Sarah Maki live for us tonight at Illinois Masonic Hospital, where she just got an update on that mail carrier's condition. Sarah?
Yeah, that's right, Joe. We were talking with the letter carrier union president as she left the hospital today. She says that doctor here tell her that their union member is now out of surgery and is expected to survive. But she says that she, like the neighbors we talked with earlier, are concerned but not surprised. A startling crime, a shooting in broad daylight, caught on camera. The corner of School Street in Kildare around 3:30 Tuesday afternoon. The suspect's white Kia caught fleeing after police say a mailman was shot in the leg during an attempted robbery.
We got shell casings on the
Police and postal trucks hastily parked in the middle of this residential block. Neighbors rushing out to help the letter carrier, standing by as police set up their perimeter.
Yeah, I mean, when the ambulance came around, you could just hear him screaming, the pain.
Ali Sanchez was home when it happened, their security camera capturing a few frames of the mailman leaving their home just moments before he was shot.
I doubt he put up any kind of resistance whatsoever. He probably said, take it all, and still they shot him.
Deborah Hamilton says her dad was a letter carrier for about 20 years, and she's concerned by the violence.
They're basically just prey. They have nothing to defend themselves.
A concern echoed by other carriers.
We don't know.
Facts. They ain't got nothing to defend themselves. That's the key, right? That's the key. Again, if these mail workers were armed, and again, it sucks that that's the point that it's gotten to in Chicago where you need to arm mail workers. But if they was armed and trained, they could defend themselves, and I'm pretty sure criminals would think twice before trying to rob an armed mail carrier, right? But again, city's not run by people with common sense. Also on top of that, what is the theme here that you're saying, right? The postal workers happen to be black. The people that are robbing them and trying to shoot them and murder them happen to be black. But hey, black people can only come together and do something about the problems that, are affecting black people negatively when it's done by the white man, right? Like down there again in Alabama. Okay, you got all these black people celebrate like it's Kwanzaa down there, okay, about what happened. Oh, black people finally stood up to the oppression. When black people are oppressing themselves every single day in these communities, that's resulting in law-abiding black people losing their lives, being robbed, living in fear, but black people can't seem to come together and do anything about that, right? They can't seem to do anything about that. And what they go out here and do is that they actually vote for more of it because they vote for people like Brandon Johnson, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, who promised that, hey, the way that we're going to solve this is with more gun control. Okay, again, places like Chicago, California, New York, they already have substantial gun control laws. Criminals still got the guns. Criminals are still terrorizing the city. And the reason why is because the Democrats, the woke, progressive, George Soros-backed prosecutors refuse to lock them up and to actually prosecute crimes because a lot of these crimes are being committed by teenagers. They're being committed by babies, right? According to people like Brandon Johnson. And they don't want to be tough on teenagers, okay? Even though these teenagers, a lot of whom can't really be reformed, they can't be fixed. They are agents of chaos to society. They deserve to be locked up. They deserve to be prosecuted and charged just like adults because they're out here committing adult crimes, engaging in adult behaviors. But no, they don't want to do that, right? They don't want to do that. They don't want to go out to the parents that are allowing these kids to live this life of thuggery and to be criminals. They don't want to do any of that stuff. They don't want to solve any of the root problems, but yet they want to punish the rest of the country because of what's going on in these inner liberal cities that is primarily the result of disastrous policies from Democrats, a.k.a. being soft on crime. Again, it's just amazing how that works. The mainstream liberal media got so upset about Ron DeSantis basically removing the woke prosecutor in Orlando who quite literally was refusing to do her job. Okay, she refused to prosecute criminals, a.k.a. teenagers, who were committing acts of violence because they were teenagers. Right, and then the liberal media wants to complain about it and want to boo-hoo, whine, and cry when this woman is not doing what she's supposed to do. Right, she was not doing what she was elected to do. But then again, the people that elected her are Democrats, okay, woke liberals, okay, who believe this nonsense that somehow being soft on crime is going to make crime go away. And it's never worked. It will never work. And as long as these people continue to vote the way they're voting, they're going to suffer from this type of stuff where you can't even have a mailman come into the neighborhood and deliver mail without having to worry about getting his head blown off, right? It's really that simple. So again, I I don't know who keeps falling for this buffoonery. Democrats come out here and they want to do everything except address the core problem. And the sad part about it is that the people at the top of the party, they're experts, right? They're experts in stopping crime. But they can't seem to figure out a way to do it in 2023 because they have to adhere to a small but very loud woke base of lunatics who, again, believe that being soft on criminals is what's going to stop crime. And it's never worked. Never worked. So, hey, until then, Chicago residents need to live with the fact that you have Postal Service workers getting robbed and shot. And at some point, they probably, won't even be able to hire people to deliver mail in these neighborhoods. And then all these residents are going to have to go to the post office or, go to an Amazon facility or whatever to actually get their mail. Okay, maybe at that point they'll actually start to vote a little bit different, right? Maybe you got to make their lives as tough as possible for them to actually realize the devastating consequences of their policies, right? Go out your way to inconvenience them, right? But who knows? Like I said, disaster in Chicago. Democrats don't want to address it. They want to talk about everything except the actual real issue. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.